Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And Bill, there's a lot of things going on in our country right now, but one of the most notable things is how Trump resurfaced in the public eye for the CPA Conference.
Yes.
And he rolled out his greatest hits of labeling and diagnosing everyone who he sees as a threat to him.
Correct. Yeah.
And he didn't even have any new labels to bring out. You remember how in 2015, 2016, running against Marco Rubio, it was Little Marco. Now it's Little Ben Sasse. He couldn't come up with a new one there. So, and then he did the same thing, labeling and diagnosing Liz Cheney and any of the people that voted against him or that voted to impeach him in the House or to convict him in the Senate. He's just attacking them all.
Right. Yeah. So communication wise, how do you protect yourself when the connection, when the accusation is coming in the direction? How do we as human beings respond to somebody who is in the place of an attacking narrative, a name calling narrative? And it takes a bit to stare it down. If somebody said, Bill, you're bald, I can look at the person and say, so are you feeling concerned about my aesthetics and my aesthetics aren't appealing to you? Is how insensitive or you're canceling me or stop being a bully. Like none of those sentences will work, but a gentle empathy sentence towards calling the person out about what they just said really kind of diffuses the fight, because then they look at you and say, yes, huh? Like, what did you just say to me? It's like, yeah, I'm diffusing the label. I can appreciate that you're using that language, but I am not, jumping into the pit of scorpions with you. I'm just going to empathize what you get stung, and so just pick any line that you like, Tom. And then we can, figure out how to stare it down. I mean, he's, let me do one of Don Jr.'s. You see what happened to Liz Cheney? All of her numbers are falling like a rock. That's what he said at CPAC. Well, what do you say back to that?
I'm curious to hear. Yeah.
The first thing I would have done is saying, gosh, I noticed a film clip of Don Jr. It'd be really interesting to see what it would be like if he would have some ethics and morals and stood up to things instead of just listening to the lies that are currently, or the untruths are being promoted by his father. Gosh, I wonder if he had an opinion that really had some integrity to it. The media would go like, what did she just say? And they did cover it. And she did make the statement. I've been very clear. I don't see he's the future of the Republican Party. And that line has a energetic sticking. That is, the piece of toilet paper he can't get off his foot. I mean, because it's not the direction of the Republic. Now, if there's enough people that keep repeating that line, Trump's not really the direction of the Republican Party. I feel doubtful that Trump is going to be a long-term solution for the Republican Party. Immediately, he probably isn't going to be a long-term solution because he's starting to shrink because he can't get marginal. He can't get the middle of the road folks to move over in his direction because they who wants to hold hands with that, with that language and with that integrity. And people are, staying away. They still want the votes. They still want the 73 million voters, but those voters will not have a long lasting loyalty, because they'll say, yeah, I voted for him, but once I found out what he was up to, then I wasn't really with him. No. So,
well, there's something very interesting going on here, Bill, because, on the one hand, the entire Republican Party, even though it's fractured, should really be seeing these very clear signs. Trump in office, they lost the House of Representatives, 2018. 2020, Trump lost the election and the Republicans lost the Senate. That's not a very good track record for, victories under Trump. But Trump came to CPAC and he's singing the same song, right? And running his playbook and trying to really lead the people that voted for him in a certain direction. Is really back to him, isn't it?
It really is. And it really is. They've got to face his narrative in a way that disables the emotion that goes along with it. So we want to stare it down. When he puts a reward up for his listeners, because that's what the Pied Piper does. Here's the reward. Here's the deal. The deal is, look what happened when Joe Biden put in. He's changing all the good things I did back. Maybe I'll run again and beat him for a third time.
Oh, that maybe is super critical, isn't it? Maybe.
It is, because that's an uncertainty sentence. That creates doubt and skepticism inside the minds and of the voters and inside the minds of Congress and senators that really want to break with him, but don't know how. He is literally handcuffing them loyalty by creating doubt and skepticism. They could counter back. Even Mitch McConnell can counter back and say, well, a part of me would vote for him, and another part of me feels doubtful and skeptical that he's the direction of my party, and split the narrative.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine if Mitch McConnell did that? Because the biggest soundbite for Mitch McConnell in the last week has been, he was asked if Donald, ahead of CPAC, if Donald Trump wins the Republican nomination, would you vote for him? And he said, and he clarified in a second, he said, the nominee of the party? Oh, absolutely. So he was showing loyalty to the party. But also making definitive if Trump is that nominee, he'd vote for him. So what could have Mitch McConnell done to try to have it both ways?
His best sentence is saying, I appreciate the question. It sounds like you're asking me to have loyalty between Donald Trump and the Republican Party. My loyalty is to the Republican Party. If he happens to be the nominee, my loyalty is to the Republican Party. We will see how it will show up then. Instead of giving the yes and no answer, he gave the yes answer. So now all of a sudden it's like, you're going to support an insurrectionist and what it does is it riles up the left to go, what are you doing to our nation? As well as what Mitch does not know he's doing is the people that are in the middle, that are center right, they're going like, I just can't. That are having those people come online. Yeah, I voted for Trump, but now I'm over here. Yeah, I voted for Trump. I was loyal to him, but now I'm over here. Now I'm going to not vote for Trump. I will feel uncomfortable with voting for a Democrat. I'd rather not vote for Trump. And by the way, that's the way the voting really kind of went in the election. Is there were many people that voted down the R's Republican wise and left the president blank or voted for someone else other than Biden because of their issues. They're going like, I don't want him in there, but I also don't want Biden, but I'm not going to give him a vote. But I'm going to vote for my other Republican values and ideals and things like that. So it is really interesting that people have multiple needs, as we've talked about in the past, Tom, and our needs keep pulling at each other. Am I going to go for loyalty? Am I going to keep my identity in place? I voted for Republican for years. Am I going to switch parties? And if I do switch parties, my identity changes, but I don't really want to be an independent, because that is kind of like the catch-all of all these other folks and these stray ideas that we can't legislate on, and it's really, really hard for a human being to decide on which needs they want to pick. I tended to go for people who speak in a voice of collaboration and cooperation. That's where my vote tends to go. So if I have a good Republican that votes in the voice of collaboration and cooperation and then backs that up, I'll consider them. But if they do not, then what happens is that, or if they promote themselves as going to do that and then don't do it. So there's a great example of this one where you probably have seen this in the news, where Amazon has one of their factories in Alabama, or one of their distribution centers, is going to form a union, right?
That their union is certainly a big possibility there. Yes.
So Tom, one of the big things that's in the news right now is that there is a Amazon distribution center in Alabama, and the workers have decided to start to and have the idea that they want to do some collective bargaining. They want to become a union. And the Amazon has hired consultants, and I heard the number was $32,000 a day, about how to break unions. They don't want the unions. How about that as a gig? $32,000 a day. All right. So these consultants come in and say, here's the messaging that most works to keep the people to vote no on the union. And they say, you're going to get paid less if you go with a union. You are going to you're going to have to pay dues on top of getting paid less. You're going to have to do, these are the problems with unions, right? With collective bargaining. What is that to do? Well, it's out of, scaring people away from speaking up and have a collaborative experience in wage suppression. Well, what's wage suppression? Well, I want to keep my wages low with my entry level people, and so that I can keep the margins moving up to the investors and the 1% or the 0.1%. So Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley during CPAC were for the working people. Ted Cruz, we're Republicans are for the people who have calluses on their hands. He literally said that sentence. So now, if that were true, then why isn't Ted Cruz, if he wants to be a national figure, which he is, show up in Alabama and say, "Come on, let's march together for a union"? He's not going to show up for that, and Josh Hawley was going to fall silent when it comes to the worker, because they're part of their party, especially the one that's on the Trump side of the fence, is like, no. We want to keep the wages as low as possible, and we're going to talk nice to the people, and then we're going to, take it out on the immigrants, which are, of course, going to be on the low part of the equation, because they're trying to and they're looking to earn, work, participate in the American experience at the entry level. The duality, even though you and I could take a half step back and go like, well, they're kind of full of it a little bit. but that's not what's important. What's important is they're creating the soundbite.
Well, and so certainly Ted Cruz is very good at creating sound bites. He's trying to appear like a Pied Piper saying, hey, I'm for the working person. But the real Pied Piper is the former president at CPAC. And he just was running his playbook, playing his fiddle, getting everyone in there, hanging on his every word. And because of that anticipation, reward, and uncertainty, he is ending up keeping people hanging on, following him, even though he hasn't committed to what he's going to do in his political future. So if you're a Ben Sasse from Nebraska, you're a Liz Cheney of Wyoming, or, any of the other people out there who have not been in lockstep with Trump, he's got you in your sights. He's leading all the sheep, the children, if you will, out of the town following him. How do you combat that, Bill? I think it takes something different than what they're all skilled to do now.
They do not have the skill. The unique approach is to step in it and cast doubt and skepticism in his direction. That's the counter for him, counting doubt and skepticism in your direction. So Liz Cheney could literally really go on any news place, and anybody, MSNBC and Fox will have her on, with no problem, and saying, yeah, I feel doubtful and skeptical because the president really struggled in his leadership to get elected this last time around. And I feel doubtful and skeptical that, even though he did get the 73 million votes, and I really appreciate those folks voting for him, but I feel doubtful and skeptical it's the future for the support that the Republican Party needs to move forward and to re-secure the things. I think the things that I'm standing for with integrity and respect and trust are going to work a little bit better than the loyalty and connection and or the messaging that he uses about promising things that he can't deliver.
Wow. Yeah.
She just says, I feel doubtful and skeptical that he can promise things that he delivers. You know what? He promised a lot of things. And, if we take a look at it, he really wasn't able to deliver it. He was convincing that he could deliver, but he wasn't able to deliver. And he found some magic sentences that are wonderful from a branding and marketing place. He is a really excellent brander. He's one of the best marketers out there. I'm very clear that he's not the construction worker building his hotels. I'm very clear that he hires those positions out. So his job is to market and sell. And he really has marketed and sold 73 million Americans to vote. The only problem is that 81 million voted for the Democrats this time. And we really want to move forward as a party because a lot of those folks did not like voting for the Republican ticket. I feel doubtful that he's the path forward. Again, doubtful, skeptical, hesitant, nervous, anxious on Trump's name. I feel doubtful that it's long run. It seems like he's a real good short-term promiser. Boy, he promises things in the short run, but gosh, it doesn't seem like he's getting the things done that we would like him to. He stopped things that we didn't like for his constituents. I mean, he was really a wonderful advocate for the oil industry. Gosh, and there's a lot of people that I like in the oil industry too, but regrettably, he's just provided more momentum for the solar and the things. And it's not a balanced approach the way I would like it to be. Now all of a sudden, all the chips are on her side.
What about like a Ben Sasse that, he recently gave a speech that, he was talking about how he says our party can't continue to worship what was the words he used? The something of one dude. I forget what the word was. He basically was talking about how they were, worshiping this one guy and abandoning
the personality and the as soon as you put the word personality, it's the cult of personality, and then you got the word cult in there, and then nobody wants to be a part of a cult, even though they're following the Pied Piper out, completely out of the party, and they're taking the party and the stuff with them. It's like the story of the Pied Piper is so valuable because here is this messenger that says, I will get rid of your rats. Give me this amount of money. And they say, here's the money to get rid of the rats. He takes the Pied Piper, plays his tune, the rat tune, and all the rats follow him out of town. Comes back in town. Person says, we ain't going to pay you. And you're going but I got rid of your rats. Yeah, but that was easy. That was easy for you. We're going to pay you half. We're going to pay you a third. We'll give you $100.
Well, that sounds a little Trumpian.
Right. Oh, absolutely. It is. I'll give you $100. After the vote is cast, and this is the thing that the certain voters are coming back and they're trying to double down on their first vote and their second vote for him. They're going to stay in there because they think the bet's going to work. But meanwhile, the music is still the same. And then as soon as he's elected, he stops playing the thing.
The flute. Yeah.
He stops playing the flute. So he'll have a phone call with the senator from Maine, Collins.
Susan Collins. Yeah.
And then she'll go on media and says, he learned his lesson. And then he turned on, I didn't learn my lesson. I won. I'm not going to change. And she's left there holding the bag going, he and other people in his office said that he wasn't going to do this anymore. And then he just cut on me. I'm carrying the water. And even though the good people of Maine voted for her again because of, his messaging and the fear that they create on that side of the fence, it's not something that is one that's built around entrepreneurialism, progress, growth, cooperation, collaboration. It's a bad company that just makes a bad product and jacks up the price to make it look more valuable meanwhile, and then market and promote the crap out of it. And then you're going this thing doesn't work. It looks good in packaging, but it doesn't work. Very, very difficult time that we're having as a nation. Very, very difficult time.
And really it's painful to watch these Republican candidates, the Liz Cheney's, the Ben Sasses, the people. There's someone from, I think, Illinois, and you have, of course, Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski. She's the other one that all voted to convict Trump or to impeach Trump. And he's trying to hang him out to dry. And he's using the labels. He's like little Ben Sass. And what do these people do to keep Trump from hijacking the party, to get that flute out of his hands?
Celebrate what he is saying to them. It's straight out celebration. Gosh, I really feel appreciative President Trump mentioning me in his speech. It seems like that he is really honoring the integrity and respect that I was talking about. And his name calling, I really appreciate, because it points out that I have an opposite opinion than he does about what peaceful transitions look like. It seems like he doesn't know how to language a peaceful transition. All he knows how to do is stir conflict.
Whoa. That Trump would not know what to do with that. The journalists covering them are going to be like, what? Oh my goodness. And this isn't really that, how do I say? This shouldn't be that difficult for them to do, Bill, should it? They just need a little awareness
Awareness,
how.
coaching, skill practice about how to language compassion and empathy for Trump and Trump's voters. Notice how I'm going after people are listening. Anybody that's listening to this, compassion and empathy for Trump and Trump voters. If anybody's listening to this, they're rolling their eyes going like, how do you do that? Well, in my world of mediation and communication, it's the guy has a need for respect. He has a need for recognition. He has a need for acknowledgement. He has a need for self-worth. And why not feed it? Why not feed those needs? Because I have those needs. And Tom, you have those needs for respect, recognition, acknowledgement.
Sure.
You know, your worth as a person is important because you're a human being too. The only thing is that you've got to have the courage to step in and through the experience, not to defend, criticize, and have contempt for or withdraw from. You got to get your voice in it early. As soon as someone mentions something, you got to step in and step in hard.
It appears like if you do that, you're going to, Trump is just going to end up continuing to do the same things he's always done. The only things he knows how to do. He's going to walk himself further out on a plank, so to speak, and look like the petulant child.
Correct. When you bring empathy in there, what winds up happening is that the person then gets the little experience of empathy that you're actually giving them, and then they don't really fully know it, but then they go for the next step or the next rung of the ladder. They just don't know that they're walking the plank, of the pirate ship. They don't know that they're walking out to the edge. So I can appreciate Josh Hawley getting his need for connection and respect met by doing a fist pump to a crowd of insurrectionists outside the White House in order to get his need for being seen met. And he has his, poster for the next run that he has. He has a poster of him doing a fist pump. Are you going to stay with people who fight for the beliefs that I have? And I have a Republican R next to my name. And nobody in my party is going to challenge that. And they don't know what to do with me. And they're all withdrawing, putting their head under the desk. And they have contempt for me. Mitt Romney sitting behind me, having contempt for me, doing that thing that I was doing with the vote. I mean, Mitt Romney's face, you saw how much contempt and bitterness Mitt had in his face. Just look at it. It was like, oh my gosh. He's, Mitt's thinking, how am I going to deal with these people? Because Mitt doesn't know what to say or do. It's really, really hard. We're really in a very difficult, they don't know how to apply empathy and compassion for people doing tragic things.
Boy,
Tom,
would that be a valuable skill for them to learn, I'll tell you.
Tom, you know that you love your children, right?
Yes.
You know that when they throw a tantrum, throwing a bigger tantrum will not work or cause damage in the relationship between you and them.
That's correct.
Yet there are many parents that go and do the tantrum and do the damage and wonder why their kid is doing drugs at age 13, 14, and 15. Well, if you try to wipe a kid out early, the Republican Party is going down that railroad track and they don't know how to get an off-ramp. They don't know how to switch over to where they need to be because they just keep driving the train out there. And the bitterness in the messaging, let's do this one. This one's an easy one. In communication, if a comedian wants to use profanity from stage, they will get laughs. If they want to tell dirty jokes that are really bad and graphics and profanity laden and things like that. As a veteran comedian will say, You will win the battle, but you'll lose the war. The battle that you win is that on stage you will get those laughs. The war is corporate sponsors will not give you money to fund to have you to be their spokesperson. They will not do that because of your potty mouth on stage. They will not sign up. I mean, is Eddie Murphy going to get a Coca-Cola ad? Nah.
Yeah, perhaps not.
Now, does he care that much? And the answer is no, because he's walking down that brand identity is edgy and stuff, let alone his talented acting skills on top of his early comedic pieces. But the individual now has a lot more room because of Trump to be confrontational and not get burned in the political space the way they used to. Is Cuomo going to hang on? Is he going to be able to make it with the things? The Democrats seem like they keep holding on to integrity regarding ethics violations and things like that. And it gives the Republicans more room in order to do things like that. And also it's like, are you going to give them a pass or not? And on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like, no, we don't want that energy in the space. Sorry, can't be a part of our party. Or you can be a part of our party, but you can be a voter. You can't be a leader.
Right.
You can vote for us, but you cannot lead us. And that's something that Trump has done a wonderful job as the marketing and sales Pied Piper. Present a reward, create anticipation about getting the thing that he promises, and then create the uncertainty to, I don't know if I'm going to run. I'm not sure if it's going to happen. Some people always say, some people even say it's the biggest thing ever. It's Americans' vaccines are going to be all throughout the world. The answer is, yeah, they're way ahead of us. And are they going to buy it? Well, eventually, because we're such good producers, some of these other countries will pay for the vaccines that we've developed, but not the way we could have collected if you were ahead of it. Those, you would have been reelected because the way you handled the pandemic, but he's not in that space. The differentiation, product identity differentiation is so prominent that literally President Biden visits Texas and sees what they need, brings some open checks, masks are off. I'm going to differentiate. You can see how unsettling that is that you're taking the federal check and you're not supporting the person that gave you the check. That does not meet the need for collaboration and cooperation, and it doesn't fit the title of the United States of America. Doesn't fit that. Hey, listen, you want borders around Texas? You want to keep separate, and the Lone Star State, you want to keep that identity? Fantastic. Still be a part of the collaborative. Because all of a sudden it's like, well, why do I want to work with you? And Tommy, you and I have had experiences of businesses that we don't want to work with anymore because it's just not any fun and it's not healthy and it's not worth our time and energy, and I've turned down a lot of money because of that. It's like, I'm not doing that product. I'm not going to promote it.
Right.
It's not in alignment with that. And And that's the difference between short-term and long-term. Is if there was more long-term collaboration between the oil industry and the solar industry, if the natural things, if collaboration, it's like, it would actually work.
I mean, to me, as a business owner, that's kind of business 101. Every business goes through a process of growth, peaking, flattening out, and declining. Every product or service, it happens. Eventually Apple has to keep finding out new things to bring out, because each new iPhone doesn't keep selling as much as the older ones did. It's because, how much are you going to change this rectangular device we use and put in our pockets? There are some technological advances here and there, but every product has a life cycle to it. And the reality is, you got to keep coming up with something new. And I've done this in my own business, is that I, see an opportunity, start it while this other one is still generating revenue.
Right.
Start building this one up. And then eventually, that's what happened in my current business. Eventually this other one starts taking off, gets going so strong, it eclipses the other original business that you used to be able to justify building this other one.
Right.
And,
right.
You got to recognize that and do it. It's not, you can't just do one thing at a time here.
Very, very challenging. Very, very. And I think when we look at getting the Pied Piper to, as the person keeps selling the same message, the message, it's sticking in people's brains, immigrants bad. Well, what winds up happening is that when that non-acceptance shows up, what the business owner doesn't get, or what the American doesn't get that's doing that place immigrant bad, all the immigrants then start moving into their own neighborhoods, and then they create their own economies inside that space. And then you're not creating the collaboration and cooperation you want for a healthy city, that it has a, integrated, population. And then all of a sudden, all kinds of stuff shows up. This is the language of separation, the language of different, you're different, I'm better, you're worse. All of those things are very, very short-term self-worth, inflation thoughts and beliefs. It's really not, it's not a healthy collaborative nation as we like. So, and it's really hard to do that as an adult moving forward through the field of time, versus somebody that creates a war in order to create unity, which is ways that America has came together. We've came together through conflict.
And usually I would have expected Americans to come together through a crisis like COVID, but it's
a great way to come together. But they've picked a narrative that is not a healthy narrative, so it is not a healthy narrative. It's poisonous. The poisonous language is toxic. It's toxic to the health of the republic. It's the antidote. And the vaccine to the Trump Pied Piper is literally the message of doubt and skepticism about the not just the short-term direction, but the long-term direction for the Republican Party. They're wondering what to do, because they've got a bunch of broken boards over here, and they don't know how to assemble it into a ship over here to go anywhere. It's like, I got these broken boards over here. I don't know what to do with the broken boards. Well, how about these other boards? Well, those ones, you can't even get off the nation. You can't even have respect internationally if you pick those ones. There's no international community that is going to embrace a second Trump term. There's nobody that's going to want to do a treaty with the guy. They'll just go like, well, I don't know, we'll wait 4 years until a better guy comes along. In which, about year 2 of his campaign, they were going like, nah, we'll wait. maybe we'll have to deal with him, but we'll see what those Americans are going to do. And gosh, we really sort of don't trust them right now.
Well, I think the Republicans and the Republican political system that exists is struggling, and they have to figure it out. But I think that if certain people who are trying to, really stand for principles and values, their message is getting drowned out by the Pied Piper, and they need to get some skills and come up with a different approach to bringing their message out.
All the folks that voted against Trump have got to kind of unite on their new message and their new direction. Because when he goes to pick all of them off, which he does, when somebody, like, for example, if somebody picks on Mitt Romney, Susan Collins needs to stand up for Mitt Romney right then, or Lisa Murkowski, or, Adam Kinzinger. They've got to step up for each other and go like, yeah, I heard that former President Trump, said this thing about Mitt Romney. It's interesting how he is going to get connection and build loyalty through conflict and trying to take it out on Mitt Romney. Gosh, I'd rather stand with Mitt Romney than I would with, President Trump, because that's more the future of the party. And all of a sudden it's cooperation and collaboration between a united message on integrity. It's like, yeah, he really likes to stir up, and he really kind of doesn't have any shame about it. Isn't that interesting how Trump is able to sell from a shaming position? I mean, the media will go like, what did you just say? Yeah. He's selling from shame and guilt. And he's building loyalty of that over that value set. I'm not sure if that's how America wants to move forward. I'm not sure if that's a really good path for us.
Well, Republican leaders out there, you need to go, not only hopefully listen to this podcast, but go seek out Bill Stierle and see how you could get some help. Honestly, that Bill, it's so needed. And
it is.
The country needs it to heal and move forward beyond Trump, and stop just worshiping this one guy who overpromises and underdelivers.
We've got to have a healthy two-party system. Conservative values, the need for order, stability, strength, fiscal responsibility has got to come back into the middle where it belongs. And it's not to say that some of the things that the Democrats are spending on is fiscally responsible, because a healthy capitalism thing is a fiscal responsibility thing to pay for. And if it's $1,400 or $1,000 or $2,000 check, pay attention to what your message is. It's fiscally responsible to keep Main Street open. I'm into the value of fiscal responsibility for a healthy capitalism, at the same time as doing my job as a public servant as a Republican. See how weird that is?
How about that?
My job as a public servant. It looks like stability for Main Street.
Boy, you don't hear this kind of messaging coming out of them. If you did, all of a sudden that person would be riding a wave of attention.
Yes.
That, when Trump does anything to try to steer that attention back in his direction, it's going to look petty. It's going to look like he's a whiner and a complainer.
Look at, you're picking on that. Great. I'll set toe to toe. What did you say? See, what's missing is they're believing that popularity wins. No, that's not wins. Value wins. Messaging on a value wins over messaging on a result. He keeps messaging on a result. There's caravans forming again. It's going to start all over again. It stopped while I was in there. It didn't really fully stop. because people still flew in and are still squatting after they got here. So you barely stopped, 15% of immigration. Congratulations and you caused damage with respect. It's really a head shaker. It's really, really hard. It's really, really hard. Anyway, Tom, we can go, but at least we can get integrity back into the middle of the mix of the Republican Party, which would
would be
really, really healthy.
So refreshing, wouldn't it?
It really would.
I hope for that. I hope for that day.
Yeah, me too. All right, Tom, have a good one. And thanks everybody for listening. And, see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.